life-changing, life-altering, eye-opening experience?
About 6 years ago, the police intervened.
People in different communities who need help. What a question to end on. My name is Sam Acho. I played 9 years in the National Football League in the NFL, American football. Played for the Arizona Cardinals, the Chicago Bears, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buffalo Bills as well for a brief stint. And so that's what I've been doing. I also just recently wrote a book called Let the World See You, How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. And so I'm an author as well, do some podcasting and do some TV stuff as well. So I do some college football and NFL analysis.
Brilliant. So of your life like when you were younger, and what's kind of the upbringing you've had to shape you into the person you are today?
Yeah, well, my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, and so they immigrated to the United States in their early 20s. I was born in Dallas, Texas. And so early life, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, in America, but I grew up in a Nigerian household with both of my parents, having these Nigerian roots. The school I went to was a predominantly white school in Dallas, and the church I went to was a predominantly Black church in the Dallas, Texas area. And so I grew up with these different worlds, but every summer and really every winter around Christmas time, I would go back to Nigeria and visit family and friends. We'd all go and spend a few weeks there over our Christmas break. And that helped develop me as well into who I am today.
I have a friend a family friend who's from Nigeria, and her mum comes to visit, obviously pre-COVID. Her mum came over for a few months at a time, and she's quite religious, believes in God. So she'd sit there on her phone watching these preachers from a church in Nigeria. And when I'd go around to the house or whatever, she'd always say, "Hey, Connie, you need to look at this." So it was really interesting. And you can definitely see a difference in culture between, say, Nigeria and England, or I'm presuming Nigeria and America also. So it's really nice to kind of, and I like her cooking too. I've got to see Nigerian food too. It's incredible. Yeah.
She sounds a lot like my wife. My wife will listen, and so my wife was born and raised in Nigeria as well. We got married about 7 years ago, and she came to America. That was the first time she'd been to America, but she still watches her because obviously in COVID you can't go to church. A lot of churches are either not meeting or meeting online, or if you go in some parts of the country, or you can meet and they're socially distant. But so she'll watch her online program, and it's and she loves it, and I'll listen in as well to that. And then also her cooking as well is phenomenal.
I much prefer my friends cooking over anything that I can get at my house or go to the shop and buy. It's incredible.
It is. She needs to start a restaurant or something.
Most definitely. Yeah, definitely. So American football. Obviously I'm English. I don't really know much about football. I have to say, since my chat with Jason Romano, I've been getting these Google notifications on my phone with the Bills game recently and things like that, updates on the game. It's like, I don't even watch it. So American football and NFL, where did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, well, it's funny. And a lot of people don't watch until it comes time for the Super Bowl, which is in a few weeks. So in a few weeks, everyone can tune in to the Super Bowl. For me, it started, I was very similar to you. My parents, when we talked about football, they heard soccer, because in Nigeria, you say football and it's like, yeah, football with the one you kick. And it was like, no, this is different. And so for me, I started playing basketball and soccer at a young age. And as I got older, I started playing football as well, and dabbled in track and field. And I started getting better at football. I got a chance to get a scholarship to one of the premier schools in college football, a school called the University of Southern California. They were like Manchester United. I don't know what a team would compare it to. They were the dominant team. I don't know if Man U's dominant anymore, but they were the dominant team in college. And so I got a scholarship offer. I went to a football camp, and they saw me. They said I did well. They said, we want to offer you a scholarship to come and play football at our school. And that's when it began.
That's quite a good way to start. You know, you've not only got that kind of American football kind of goal. You've got, you know, you play basketball too, and that's. Were you any good at basketball?
I was pretty good at basketball, and that's the thing. That's the thing I saw was a huge benefit, was being a multi-sport athlete, playing football, playing basketball, doing track and field. I threw the shot put and discus. Some of the same movements and motions that I use in basketball and in track and field, I saw benefit me in football as well. And so I was pretty good at basketball. Really, my dream was to go. I thought I was going to go play basketball in college. That was really my goal, because I just love the game of basketball. But I didn't grow as tall as some of the basketball players you see, and so I didn't end up going to play basketball.
And where's that kind of going now? Do you have any sort of goals for football, or any kind of anything set in stone for what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah, no, nothing's set in stone. I've been playing the last 9 years. I didn't play this year. COVID, I didn't really want to play this year. There's so much going on in football. And so didn't play this year. But what I've been most excited about is some of the speaking opportunities I've been able to do, to go speak and encourage people all around the world, and also be able to write my book, Let the World See You, How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. How to be real in a world full of fakes. I've been excited about that, sharing that message. And then lastly, just being able to be more present with my wife and my children. You know, and as a professional athlete, you're traveling all the time and playing games and practicing. So to be able to be more present during this time has been beneficial.
I think family time, you know, for me, is something that I hold with a you know, a big kind of respect kind of thing. It's something that is quite important to me. So I completely understand where you're coming from in that terms of, you know, you travel a lot when you're in sport, and it's I think it, you know, obviously I don't know, I'm only 16. I'm not married or whatever, but I can imagine that it is nice to, you know, come back home with your family and just have that family time again.
Well, it's similar. And Connor, do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have. I'm one of 4, so there's 3 others.
Where are you in that mix?
I have 1 older one and 2 younger ones.
Okay, great. So I was one of 4 as well. I have 2 older ones and 1 younger one. And so for me, when I say family, now it ended up being my wife and my kids. But just like when I was 16, my family was my younger brother and my 2 older sisters and my mom and dad. And so it's fun sometimes to be alone and on your own. And yes, I get it. You have freedom, but there is a major benefit of being able to be with family, especially if you have family, even if it's just your mom or your dad, or if you have a sibling or a really close friend. Those are the relationships that last, rather than sometimes we go after all these achievements and we get them, but sometimes you feel empty.
Yeah. So in your football career, 9 years, you know, you've played in the NFL. I imagine everybody's heard of the NFL, but that's quite a sportsman in American football. That's quite a goal, isn't it, really? And what was NFL like for you?
For me, playing, I've got a chance to meet. I haven't got a chance to meet too many soccer players, but for me, and from what I understand, that's even a different hemisphere, different stratosphere, different exosphere altogether. But for me, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because not only I got a chance to play a game and practice my technique, but also I got a chance to interact with people and travel around the country. I got a chance to go to so many different states in America and see them and travel and visit. And even playing in the NFL has given me a platform to go around the world. I got a chance to go to South Korea and speak and do a football camp in South Korea for the South Korean football team. I got a chance to go, when we go to Nigeria, we do so much stuff, whether it's football or soccer over there. And so the NFL has given me a platform, almost like a seat to sit on at the table.
Brilliant. So you just mentioned about going to Nigeria. Something that I researched prior was you went to Nigeria to participate in a medical mission. What was that? I'm really interested in that. What's that about?
Yeah, well, my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, and Nigeria, as we all know, is a developing country, and so they came to America. And my mom is in the medical field; she's a doctor and nurse practitioner. My dad he has his PhD in psychology, but he's a visionary and the leader of these trips. What they noticed was that after they came to America, they saw that in Nigeria, people would die from little illnesses, like an insect bite, dysentery. These illnesses would be death sentences. Whereas in America, if something like that even happened, you just go to your local pharmacy, go get some medicine, go see a doctor, and you're healed. And they said, man, something's wrong with this. Let's do something to see if we can change it. And so they started to get people together and go back to Nigeria every summer with different people in the medical field, doctors, nurses, surgeons, dentists, ophthalmologists, pediatricians, optometrists, and just go and help people. And we would do, the surgeons would be removing hernias. People would have these hernias, and the surgeons would remove hernias, and the optometrists would give out glasses. The ophthalmologists would do eye surgeries. We would do all these different things. The pediatricians would treat kids. The dentists would come, and we were healing, helping with them, helping physical illnesses, going to different villages in Nigeria. But also we were telling them about a bigger picture, a bigger story. We were telling them about our faith in God, our faith in Jesus, right? How like, yes, there's a benefit in being physically healthy and whole, but sooner or later, we all die, right? So there's like an eternal perspective as well. So yes, like, well, we want to help physically, but let me tell you about a God who saved me. Let me tell you about a God who loves you. Let me tell you about this God who's real and who exists. And so there was this like a dual kind of message. Yes, we're helping, you know what I mean? But also, man, there's something even better I want to offer you that's free of charge, just like this medical stuff is free of charge.
Brilliant. That's really good. And I think more people should be looking out and seeing what they can do. I know it's hard at the moment. We can't really do much, especially, in our country currently, you can't go outside your house, or you shouldn't be going outside your house. But I think, maybe after COVID, people should look into doing things. And there's a couple of organizations that go out, so not just Nigeria, to other countries who might not have the same funding or same capabilities as other countries do. And so I think it's really important that organizations, agencies, individuals even go out and do this thing. Is this something that you do rolling, like consecutive, or yeah?
Yeah, we've been doing it every year for my parents started it over 30 years ago. So we've been going every single year for the last 30 years. Obviously, last year, because of COVID, last year was the middle of COVID, we didn't go last year. But pretty much every year, and there may have been one other year we didn't go, but for the last 30 years, we've been going. And we actually opened up a medical center called Living Hope Medical Center in Nigeria. It's because we would go and we would leave, we would go, we would help, we would leave, go help, leave, go help, leave. And finally we said, what if we could have something more permanent, something that was longer lasting? And this medical center proved to be that.
Is that something that you do, you and your family do, with you and and the doctors and the professionals, or is this something that you invite other people to come along to also?
We invite really anyone who has a heart to come. Obviously there's a medical side. So there's a large number of people who are coming are in the medical field, but a bunch of my teammates came as well. I've gone with different of my NFL buddies, and they've come and joined me on the trips. We had people who were photographers who wanted to come, people who just wanted to, they wanted to go. And so we've it's open for anyone to come, but obviously we understand that it's at the end of the day, it's a medical mission trip. So those pieces of that medical piece is it's not just like, hey, let me go. I've never been to Africa before. Let me go visit. That's not the goal of our trip.
Am I right in saying the goal is if you're not, for example, if I was to go, say, in a couple of years, it's not for me just to go and have a look around. It's if I was to go, it's for me
And to
to
serve.
offer a helping hand.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone serves, right? So even my teammates, when we would go, a lot of us are big and strong, and so we don't have any medical background, but we would provide help in the crowd control areas. We would be helping organize people, and there'd be thousands of people waiting outside. We'd set them up in lines and help bring them in. We would give people, help identify why you are here. Are you here for medical? Are you here for medical help for your body? Are you here for vision help? Do you need glasses? Do you have kids? Or do you need a surgery? So just that was our job. So everyone has a job to do. Some people are in the pharmacy, they're counting medicine, and there's so much opportunity, but it is an opportunity to serve.
That sounds brilliant. That sounds really, that's something I find interesting. So maybe in a couple of years, you never know. I might go out and offer any help I can do.
Yes. I mean, there have been times when we'll stop in London, and we'll stop, because of going through British Airways. So we maybe, it'll save you a leg of the trip.
Yeah, well, I'd love to. I'd love to. That's brilliant. And I think it can be quite eye-opening, I imagine, seeing again, it's a different culture. I guess if you go every year, you have that vision of what it was, say, the years before, but I imagine every single year will be different, and you see or hear things that are different every single year that will stick to you, I imagine.
Definitely. Yeah. Every year is different. Every year people go thinking they're going to help and serve. I think I'm going to go help all these people and serve all these people. But in all reality, you end up leaving more filled up than you came. You end up leaving with more than you brought, if that makes sense. You leave with more. You gain more than you gave.
Yeah. And that's something that, I think some people need to experience if their heart is in it, obviously. I went somewhere. I went to France. I went to Belgium on a trip, as a battlefields trip for World War One. And to use your words, I went there and came back with a lot more than I'd gone there with. To use what my mum says, I went there as a boy and I came back as a man. Mm-hmm. Trips and things like that are what a lot of people should be experiencing, but only if obviously their heart is in it and they've got something to give.
Absolutely. I went on that the first time I went on that trip. I was around your age, Connor. I was 15 years old. The first time my parents felt like I was old enough to go and to see and to experience. And in a lot of ways, as you mentioned, I talk about that in my book. I went as a boy, and I met a young boy named Samuel. My name is Samuel. I met another young boy named Samuel, and it was just a life-changing, life-altering, eye-opening experience.
Yeah. So your book, we can see it in the background there. You've spoke about it before. I know it's something that you're very proud of. Let the world see you, how you are. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Let the World See You, and the subtitle is How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. Let the world see you, how to be real in a world full of fakes. And it's about what it means to be seen and to be known, to be real, what it means to be authentic and to be vulnerable, to find your identity, to learn who you are and the things that you love and don't love, to learn about why you hide and what are you hiding from. It talks about learning how to name your emotions. It's pretty much a book that started, the concept of it started as this 12, 13-year-old boy, me, being ashamed, hiding in a bathroom stall because I was getting made fun of and getting laughed at and getting talked about. And fast forward 15, 20 some odd years later, no longer am I a teenager. Now I'm a young man in NFL locker room, yet I would still find myself wanting to hide. Still found myself wanting to hide. And it was interesting to me, what is causing this desire to hide? What am I hiding from? Why am I so afraid to let people see the real me? And so it's this journey of what it means to be seen and what happens when you let people see you and what happens when you show yourself to the world and the benefits that come from it.
Hmm. Do you think that, do you have kind of a, it'll be hard to find a definitive answer on why you felt that way, but do you feel as you've grown up and gone through different experiences that you have found more of a whole reason or understanding of why you felt that way?
Well, I think everybody at the end of the day, we have a few, like for me, I think there was a bit of shame. I felt ashamed. I was getting laughed at for, the clothes I was wearing, getting made fun of, getting picked on. And I didn't know what to do. Some people, their reaction is to fight. You talk about me, I'm going to fight. And I'm going to, verbally get back you or physically push you or punch you. That's some people's response. Other people's is flight. Let me run away. A scary situation comes and I'll just run. Right. Other people's response is to freeze. You don't know what to do. Yeah, you just sit there. And I think for me, after feeling this sense of, oh no, like why are they making fun of me? And my dad he served at the church. He was a pastor at this church. Gonna think I didn't know what, as you're 13 and 12, you don't really know how to verbalize what you're feeling, but it just doesn't feel good. And so for me, my reaction was, well, let me just leave. Just leave.
Yeah.
I don't want to be talked about. So I just leave. And so as you get older, sometimes it's feeling, you don't want to feel used. You feel whether you've been used before, or you feel invisible. Like different people have different reasons. But for me, I learned it was this feeling of shame. I was ashamed of something, whether it was, like I said, that day maybe embarrassing those closest to me, and that's why my response was to hide.
Yeah, so I imagine there's a lot of people that might not be able to admit it, but might be able to relate to some of the things that are in your book, some of the things that you say. I think it's a feeling of, we live in a world, unfortunately, where you have to be made out to be perfect. You look at certain people's social media pages and it's when they're on holiday or they're doing these big courageous things, but you don't see any pictures of when they're on a down day, or a picture of them when their family, when they're just having their tea on a Saturday night, or I think there's too much pressure through social media. Currently we're moving to a stage where social media is growing, such a huge thing, and there is such a huge pressure on people to act perfect. We've got to pretend like we're something we're not. I speak, I'm learning to speak quite openly on here. I did one the other day where I opened up a bit more about my life and some of the things that I've gone through, which is something I haven't done before. But I didn't do it because, I for whatever reason, I did it because it felt right. And I think that's what's important for people to understand is don't go out and do something because you want to look good or you think people will be impressed. Do whatever you feel is right for you. And that's why I recommend what you're saying, and I urge people to go and to do research, look into that book, read the book, buy the book, and process it also, understand it.
Yeah. And what was it like for you, Connor, growing up? Because I've always wondered, even like for me, we're living in a pandemic here in America. And even within America, there's different states have different laws and different rules. So I get that. But then I remember it's a global pandemic. So even where you're at, it's in a pandemic. But even with that, like, what has it been like for you, whether it's growing up or in school or friendships? I've always wondered what that looks like as a 16-year-old kid in England.
Yeah. So early life, in a general kind of speak, I was born in 2004, towards the beginning of the millennium. We had, obviously 2004, technology is growing a bit more, PlayStation 2s and things like that. you know, life for me, not really had much money. I didn't really have too many friends. I moved school when I was about 6 years old. Moved schools, so I had to create a new set of friends. But from the age of from being born, really, I used to swim. And then when I was about 7, 8, I joined the local swimming team. And then then from when I was 9, that's it. And here, this is when you can start competing. So I was 9, I started competing up and down the country. I was traveling all over the place. And then I started doing biathlons, running and swimming, which I couldn't run. I was really bad. Long distance.
How are you at swimming?
I don't like to I don't like to seem big-headed, but I was good. I was actually really good at swimming. I got to the finals of a few swimming tournaments and events, and competed at the Olympic Stadium in London. And we were the first organisation to use the Olympic Stadium after the Olympics. And an American swimmer who I looked up to all my life, Michael Phelps. I swam in his lane at the swimming pool. I swam in his lane, and I could feel it. I imagine that's something a bit like football. You might watch football or hear about your stars, and then you're there amongst them. So obviously,
what did that feel like, Connor? I mean, I couldn't imagine being a swimmer. Swimming in the same lane that Michael Phelps swam in, the Michael Phelps. Yeah. What did that feel like for you? And how old were you at the time?
I was about, it was 2013, 2012, 2013. Yeah. It was brilliant. It was strange because obviously, it's just it looks just like a swimming pool. It's just a crowd of people. But then in my head, I'm going, oh my God. In the film, there's a Disney film, Cars, Lightning McQueen. Before he races, he says, I am speed. In my head, I'd never done that before. But because I knew this was Michael Phelps' lane, it wasn't me telling me I am speed. It was his voice. It was Michael Phelps kind of telling me, you are speed. And I won. Not to brag, I won. I won that, my age category. I won that swimming event. And then, a couple of hours later, I had to go outside and run. But
the running part didn't go so well.
No, not really. It was unfortunate. It was unfortunate because they were doing the running track up at that time. So then we had to go and run on the car park. So we ran on the car park, and I led for about half the way, and then I just went, oh, I'm tired.
I'm not speed.
No. And then I saw this person go past me, and then another went past me. I thought, oh, please, no. So then I kind of stayed. I came 4th in that, but out of, I think, 8 people. So I came half. I did half. But what was good about biathlons is swimming is worth more points than running. So when they total it up, swimming is worth more. So that was always good for me. I can see my trophies there. And I have them there because, I've stopped swimming. I've stopped competing for many different reasons. But
what made you stop?
Well, I was training. It sounds strange saying it to a sports person, but I was training 7 times a week, which doesn't sound, too many times, but, as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going to bed
early.
then swimming, and then going to school as well. It got quite stressful and on top of me. And then there was also other things. I spoke about this on another episode, so I don't mind saying it again. I went through. I lived in an abusive household. So it was my father who was very abusive. He liked to drink, but drinking wasn't the kind of start of his anger. He was a very angry, still is a very angry person. And luckily, about 6 years ago, the police intervened and got him out. And, you know, it's been 6 years without him. It's been absolutely incredible. It's actually almost seven next month. It's been incredible.
What day?
It was, I can remember it. The arrest 7 years ago, the arrest was made on the 11th of February.
Wow.
Which, you know, it was.
What did you feel? What was the feeling when he was arrested?
I have to be completely honest. It was strange. I lived with the mentality of everything I experienced was normal, which to some people they might not understand that. But you've got to kind of understand that a child from birth to 7 days before his birthday, 10th birthday, was experiencing verbal and physical abuse, not only to himself but to his parent, his mum, his siblings. Every single day, you start to kind of grow and believe that is a normal. Obviously, I know now, and I can speak about it freely. You know, I've educated people on it, but I felt, if I look back at it now, I felt a relief. But if you ask me the same question, I'd say probably upset, because he was my dad at the end of the day, you know. But now I don't really call him my dad. If I speak to it in a context like this, it's my father. Obviously, I won't say what I call him, say to my family in front of my older sister or whatever. We have our own names for him, which most people will completely understand. But yeah, that it was, you know, it was a big thing. So I think, kind of coming back to your question, living in England, we have a very good police force in our country, despite what, you know, anybody media-wise has to kind of say. There are certain individuals that may not be good, but the police generally are incredible. They did a lot for me, a lot for my family, and have continued to offer support since, which I probably could never thank them enough for. They have changed my life in a good way. By removing him, they changed me as an individual. I look at things like a domino effect. Sometimes the domino effect can be quite far-fetched, but it still works. So the way I look at it is, he did that every single day. He got removed. This led me to be quite an angry person, an upset child, couldn't speak about his emotions, you know, it comes back to your book, didn't know what his emotions were, couldn't handle society. So I went to a local mental health service referred to by my doctor. I did different therapies and things like this with different agencies. I had a life coach. I did counselling. I also did therapy. I did lots of different things. Some worked better than others. And then that led me to become an ambassador for that mental health service. They asked me, and they said, you know what, Connor, I'd like you to be an ambassador and speaker for our group, as well as at the time there was like 6 or 7 young people also that were asked. Then that led me to be part of a youth council, a youth parliament council kind of group for my local area. And then a local politician found out about me and said, I've got a police commission that I'd like you to join. Then that led me to message a former New Scotland Yard detective. Now, I think I'm right in saying New Scotland Yard is a little bit like maybe the FBI.
Yeah.
So it's somebody who's got so much. I messaged him asking him some questions to help me with my police commission. He said, Connor, there is far too much to say in a message. How about we set up a Zoom call? Then that started me thinking, if I can talk to him, who else can I talk to? And then that is why I started this series. I'm here to show people, everybody's human. Everybody goes through things. I do research before, and obviously when I ask people questions that may be slightly sensitive, I've got questions here that may be slightly sensitive when I ask them, but obviously it's in the way I ask it, and that domino effect is something that I'm proud of and not ashamed to say.
My last question before I let you go: will you ever go back to swimming? Will you ever swim again? Not run. I don't need the running part because I know the value. But will you swim?
Yeah. Will I ever swim again? Maybe. I'd love to swim. I miss swimming. As soon as, say, if I'm on holiday or whatever, I get back in that swimming pool and I feel amazing. I miss it so much. I'd swim again. I'd compete again, but I don't think I'd join a team. I'd compete as an individual. That sounds slightly egotistical and very big-headed, but I feel I train myself harder because I know my limits than a coach would. I'd be able to push myself further than a coach would. So maybe, yeah, I think I would actually. Maybe in a couple of years when I finished education, kind of settled down a bit better, stability, bit of a job maybe, then I'd probably most definitely get back into swimming.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, actually. Thank you for asking me some questions.
Yeah.
So you have...
Thanks for answering them.
No worries. You have a podcast coming. Today's the 20th. Is it 29th of January?
The 29th of January, yes.
What's that podcast called, and what's it about? Where can people go to see it, watch it, listen to it?
Yes, it's called the Athletes for Justice podcast, and that's the name of it, and it's available on Apple Podcasts and all the places you get your podcast, but go to Apple to get it. And we're pretty much telling stories of justice and hope in a broken world. There's been so many questions about trying to answer the question, what is justice or what is injustice? What is hope? What is love? And so we're interviewing athletes, professional athletes, collegiate athletes, everyday athletes, weekend warriors about that question of what is justice. We're interviewing people in the justice space, people who lead nonprofits, kids in communities who've been affected by injustices, asking them these questions. And also we're interviewing, entertainers, artists, politicians, just people who could actually help move the needle when it comes to justice. And so we're talking about it, but we're also doing it in our actions. We have a nonprofit that we started called Athletes for Justice. And in that, we've been able to help people in different communities who need help.
Wow, that sounds... I will definitely be listening to that.
Subscribe and tell all your friends to subscribe, because it's really going to be a life-changing podcast. I think the question of justice is a big word, and it just seems in a lot of ways that it comes and goes, but it seems like athlete and justice go hand in hand, almost like a glove, right? Like athlete and justice. And so that's why we were combining this idea of athletes who care about things, but also people in that space, people in the nonprofit world, people who are on the ground doing the work, people who are making laws. There's clout in both arenas. And so we're trying to combine them and see the change that flurries out of it.
I think if there's no better time for you to start talking. There is no time like the present, as they say. I think England has shown its different side to what it means with democracy and justice, which not many people are aware of, because America has been much. I almost said America has trumped us, which would have been an unfortunate one. I was actually watching the inauguration just before, actually, and I was really thinking about what Joe Biden was saying. And he was talking about justice, and he mentioned justice, and he was talking about democracy. I don't really get into politics too much. I've had different politicians on, but when it comes to people outside of politics, I don't tend to ask them because it can be a bit of a taboo subject. And I think more so in America, opinions divide Americans more than, say, the British. But it is this new America something that you may be looking forward to, or you will genuinely see a change? Obviously, I believe there is change necessary, but do you believe there is change necessary?
Yeah, well, like you, Connor, I was watching the inauguration right before this. We're recording this on January 20th at 12 p.m. Central, but 6 p.m. in your time. And I was watching the inauguration before, and I was left hopeful, even with Amanda Gorman, the young poet who spoke, the 22-year-old, beautiful young woman, beautiful Black young woman, who spoke powerful words about how this country is at a place where it's almost divided, America almost divided, but we can rally, and we can rally is not the right word, but the better word is we can overcome. And so I'm inspired by Amanda's words. I'm really inspired by what she said, inspired by what we saw in the inauguration, that change is coming.
Most definitely. And in my opinion, personally, I think that is not just something that's necessary for the US, but something that's necessary worldwide. Unfortunately, I know you asked about the pandemic, like a global pandemic, and what it kind of means in the UK. We've not had the best. You might hear about it in the news that unfortunately Britain has overtaken again to be the worst in the world. And I was saying to my mum before, I said, Mum, 5 years ago, if I spoke to anybody, I'd say I'd lived in the best country in the world. I say I lived in the most powerful country in the world. I'd say I lived in a country that provides hope and democracy and everything, and should be an example for the rest of the world. I'd say if somebody asked me now, I'd be disappointed to tell them, that's not good. You should be proud of where you live. You should be proud of where you're from. I am proud of where I'm from, but am I disappointed? 100%. I think our past deaths, our population differs greatly to the US. We have much smaller population, but as of today, the 20th of January, 2021, the past 24 hours, we have had over 1,800 deaths. Any country, no matter what the population is, that's far too high. So yeah, I am unfortunately quite disappointed. And do I believe that maybe not just Joe Biden, but a change in America may change the world, kind of push hands. Do I think that is something that could happen or possibly should happen? I hope so. I
agree. This has been fun, man.
Yeah, definitely. One kind of final point. I understand you're very busy, but and this might be slightly a big, broad question to finish on, but it is something that I highlighted, and it's something that it's a passion of mine, and it's one of these questions. I apologize before if I word it in the wrong way. It's not my intention. I hope you can understand that as speaking to me now. I hope you understand that I'm not trying to say this in any malicious way, but I read your brother's book, Emmanuel's book, and it talks about white privilege. What do you have similar opinions? Do you think white privilege is something that is there, that's something that needs to change?
What a question to end on. Yeah, so my brother wrote a book as well. So after you read his, go read mine, or before you read his, go read mine. Let the world see you. It comes from I think my book comes more from a heart perspective, and his more is the head perspective, right? Like, what are ways to end systemic injustice, right? Policies and looking at history, like things that actually happened. And I think about like my perspective is yes, agree, 100%. And then what are ways? And then also like, what are ways we can change ourselves? Right? What are ways that we can grow? Right? I can let the world see me. How can I say, man, I see injustice. What can I do to help change it? What can I do to help solve it? Yeah.
I think it's after reading your brother's book, it opened my mind massively. Like I said before, I do have a friend from Nigeria. I have Muslim friends and Black friends and friends of different cultures and religions and beliefs and all sorts. But I know it's written in an American kind of perspective, but it's something that can be carried wherever, and it's something if you're going on Amazon, don't just buy the one book, buy Sam and Emmanuel's book, because both of them are just as good. So I really do appreciate your time, and thank you for asking me them questions. It's great to have a conversation, so thank you for that.
No, Connor, thank you so much, and thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to see what you end up doing. You've got a great future ahead of you, so I'm excited.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and hopefully hopefully we can speak again in the future and have a conversation in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll see you later, friend.
See you later. Bye-bye.